Hey, welcome back to the podcast, the Evil Dungeon Master Universe podcast. I am your host, Evil Dungeon Master Vince. Hopefully, you're having a great Tuesday. It is time for another podcast. Today, we're going to open up a mailbag. Got a couple of emails today. One will be a podcast topic, another one will actually be covered on YouTube. But let's talk about the podcast topic for today. It does come from one of my viewers named Stephanie, and she says, "Hi, Vince. Can you talk about on your podcast how to encourage good in game behavior with PCs? I have a group I am playing with, and they often go off the rails and give the GM a hard time. I feel bad for him. Maybe some incentives for engaging more and less running wild. Thanks, Steph." Well, that sounds like a massive issue going on there, and sounds like the players are either bored with the game or I don't know. They're just having fun way too much and not realizing how they're pissing off the GM. Because I definitely know from experience that if you plan a whole game out and your players are just running wild, it usually means they're bored or they're just not engaging in the story because they don't like what's going on. So you may have to change things up a little bit. But before we get into that, theevildm.com is my website where you can check out different things I'm doing. I'm going to try putting up some more posts on there as well for just general articles and things like that, as far as not just podcast related stuff, maybe stuff to talk about when there's no YouTube video or podcast out there to post about. Thanks to those that have rated the podcast on Apple and Spotify. I appreciate that. I'm almost at 100 on Spotify for ratings, so. And we're getting closer to 100 episodes since I brought back this podcast. Whoever thought I would get to 100 episodes by myself on a solo channel? I didn't even think I'd be able to do it. But here we are at 86 or something like that. So another 14 episodes. I don't know what I'm going to do for the 100th episode, something special, but who knows. Anyway, so how to encourage player engagement within the game, how to guide players into certain positive habits in the game, and how the players could probably help the GM as well. Well, you have to make the game world immersive, like using vivid descriptions and dynamic NPCs to draw players into the game world. Creating a bustling market scene with unique vendors and like side quests and things are always reasons that bored players will have something to do while they're playing the game. If you just have like an open world and there's just nothing in it and you don't really describe anything, players are probably going to go off the rail and not really care what you have set up and think that they're being railroaded into an adventure. So if they talk to a certain NPC while gathering supplies and thinking about if they want to do your mission, maybe your NPC could say, I really could use some help with something. Are you free? And then kind of give them this little tiny side quest in the town that might make them, get their little, the hobo out of the way. Maybe have them go kill something. That'll get them, incentivized to move forward with something else. Got to get that first killing out of the way so that they understand what's going on. I mean, you can also do things like personalizing the experience as far as putting the players' backstories into the main plot to make it feel like the story revolves around them, which the story should somewhat revolve around the players. Not all of them, maybe one of them, a couple of them, but everybody needs their chance in the spotlight. So maybe at first it revolves around a couple, then shifts to somebody else. Maybe an NPC from their background is at the market and it's someone that they don't like. Maybe someone of their family has been kidnapped and this person knows something about them. Try to look at the backstory. If the character doesn't have a backstory, you don't have much to work with a GM. But generally, players will give you a little something something for their character and their background so you can work with it into the plot somewhere along the lines. You need to set clear objectives for the session, what you want to accomplish, and how you want to reward the players with items or experience. Maybe a quest to save a village and receive a powerful artifact is a good reward. It doesn't have to be an artifact. It could be just a magical item for their reward. So they have something to incentivize to move forward on what you have planned. But if you just loosey goose it, Sure, I do that a lot myself, loosey-goose it, I call it, or react, but I have things planned out that I want to accomplish, and I present the situation to the players in game and let their characters kind of pick. Now, starting off in the beginning, I will definitely guide them to an adventure of what I want them to do. And my group is pretty good with that. They'll bite and they'll take it on, but after that, once they're done with that main little objective that doesn't take very long, I generally allow them to do what they want and kind of react to what they're doing. So it feels like they are part of the world and doing something in the world. There are some positive things that you could do, positive reinforcement, like give extra experience for players who stay in character during difficult decisions and don't make crack jokes or stuff. I mean, everybody cracks jokes and it's fine, but maybe not during the actual pivotal scene of where you're deciding something with an NPC that's dramatic. Uh, if you want to set a serious tone for your game, try to set that up front and tell your players up front that this is going to be a serious campaign. I'd rather not have too many out of character jokes. Now, I mean, out of character jokes always happen. There's not a lot you can do. People are people, and sometimes it's funny and sometimes it's not. And sometimes you have a person in your group that just likes to make out of character jokes. You're just gonna have to tell that player, to just maybe curb it for this one adventure or so. Allow them a couple leeway things to say, but tell them to try to time it a lot better. You can give more in-game incentives like inspiration points, allow them to roll dice. I've done that before, or give someone like, hey, next time here is a natural 20 roll that you have because that was such a great, awesome move. You just can't use it in this one situation, but you can use it for this. There's a bunch of other things we could talk about. Let's see here. Active participation in the game is another one. And this is what a player can do to help support a GM in a group. And this might be more for you, Stephanie. How to support the GM in the group when you see everything going off the rails. You should probably take the initiative and start side conversations with NPCs to uncover more of the plot or what the GM is trying to, bring across to the group. Trying to move things along so that your adventure as planned will happen and everybody will have a good time. I mean, maybe suggesting new plot directions or highlighting what aspects you enjoyed about the game afterwards to the GM might be an idea. Maybe the group will sit there after the game and have a conversation. And generally, my group will do this as well. And I've seen other groups do this after the game. The GM will say, well, what did you think? Or maybe after the game, you, as a player, can say, hey, can we talk about the game for a little bit? And most GMs will be like, absolutely. Unless they have somewhere to go, of course, then they'll be like, no, I gotta go. But give constructive feedback and tell them what you really, really liked about the adventure. If there was a troubling scene in the adventure or a troubling ruling or something, don't do it in front of the group. Talk to him on the side. Because it can be a little embarrassing if you're like, yeah, you did this or that, and I didn't think it was cool, and then everyone else is like, yeah. It might embarrass him. I don't know your GM, so maybe just take him to the side, be like, hey, this is what I think. Take it, take it however you want to take it. I'm just trying to help move things forward and have a fun game with everybody. So here's what I think, and just give him examples. I don't know how long you've been playing games, and I'm directing this directly to Stephanie. And if you're not a long-term experienced gamer, I've seen GMs blow up at these things, and that's a bad sign. Every GM should take any constructive criticism from any player as long as they're willing to give it, and it's helpful. Like, they're just like, yeah, you're a dick, and I can't believe you did this to me. No, that doesn't really help the situation. You want things like, yeah, I really enjoyed this. Could you give me more of this in the game? Or I didn't really care for, when the NPC did this and pressed upon me and gave me, like, I have a player who doesn't really like the spotlight too much. They like it just a little, but not too much. And she told me this. So I changed it up so that she doesn't get any of the real spotlight. And she doesn't care because she doesn't want the spotlight to begin with. So I will bring it down a little. So when it comes to her character, it's not really a big spotlight session as well. Yeah, players should assist each other and give the spotlight over, and not one player should hog the spotlight all the time. A GM should allow spotlighting for certain characters, and when they design their adventures up, they should keep in mind certain characters for certain situations so that character can shine during the adventure. These are all things that will probably help your group, especially if the spotlight's on a certain character and they enjoy that. They tend to play a little bit more focused, knowing that the whole thing revolves around them at the exact moment. So it's a good idea if you have like 5 players, think of 5 things, look over their character sheet, find 5 things that they're really, because they're 5 players, 5 things that they're really good at, and highlight a scene with one of those things. That player can be like, "Oh, I'm good at picking locks and getting into that room with the chest. I can do this and that," and try to give them a string of things to do in that scene, not just one thing. It's like a string of things, like open the door, check for traps. If they find a chest in the room, check that chest. So they're involved in the scene and it revolves around them. And this is an excellent idea to keep players engaged. At least I think so. So well designed plots and challenges are fun. Not everybody knows how to do plots and challenges. Challenges aren't that difficult, but plots sometimes can be troublesome depending on how you're doing it. Tried to have random stuff happen as well that builds the world up. Sometimes a random event can turn into an entire campaign itself, so always have those things ready as a GM. There's a lot of things that you can do that I probably haven't really covered here because this can really go on forever and ever. But again, this is only a solo podcast and I have no one to bounce off ideas, so I'm doing this off the cuff. No, I'm not doing it off the cuff. I actually wrote down a couple things that I was reading because I knew this would be an interesting topic to talk about it when I saw it this morning in my email box, and I wanted to jot down as many ideas as possible because it just could go on, and there's so many different ways to get a group. I mean, if the group is really that big of a problem for you, maybe you should find another group, and I hate that result. I mean, there's dozens of groups out there. This isn't like it was in the 80s when it was really difficult to find a gaming group. I mean, you can go online, find a gaming group. You can go to your local gaming store and probably find 2 to 3 different groups. I understand they're your friends, and if they continue to play like this and it's really bothering you, it's not going to be a fun time for you, and you're going to want to not be in that group. I've left groups for less than that, but again, it's really up to the GM to wrangle the players in and get them to follow along with the adventure. Sometimes players don't want to, and then you got to talk to them and tell them, "Hey, listen, guys, we're all here to have a fun time. So we need to focus in." And I remember I had one adventure in the past, I don't know, probably 10 years that went off the rails. And it was an AD&D when I was trying to introduce, and I think I've talked about it before, I was trying to start a new season of a game, and I gave the players a ship, and we had a new character involved, and then I had a hook going on of the ship going after some pirates that stole the gear and valuables that he was transporting to another kingdom, and I was going to have them go after this pirate ship with their ship that they were on. And what this would have done was not only them defeating them, they would have got their own ship to actually sail the seas with and have a nice seafaring adventure. But I had 2 players in my group that decided to be jackasses, and they didn't want to do that, so they decided to do a mutiny on the ship that they were on and then just start attacking the captain. It was to the point that I was sitting there basically with my jaw open, wondering what the frig was going on here. The rest of the group, we were playing this online, the rest of the group messaging me saying, "This is ridiculous. These 2 need to stop. If this continues, I'm out." And I got that from multiple people, and they were just acting like jerks. I had to stop the adventure, take a 5 minutes, talk to everybody, and then do a cold restart of everything. But it took the sails, or took the wind right out of the sails for that game. I was excited about that game. Everybody seemed to be excited about that game when I talked about it beforehand, telling me we were going to do a seafaring adventure. You guys are going to be pirates. You can go to lands, and you can the sea and fight people on the sea, and they were like, "Oh, that sounds cool," and but they just didn't want to do it in that one adventure, and I never. They thought it was funny that they were trying to attack the captain and take over the ship, all because the captain wanted to help the new character and set off the adventure. So I learned and I moved forward not to do anything like that ever again. So, we all learn when we're GMing over the years. It's not like, 30 years of experience and all of a sudden, you're perfect. No, you learn all the time. GMing is a learning process. It's not perfect. And you could have many years under your belt and you will keep learning. Hopefully that has answered your question, Stephanie. I know it's a very long-winded explanation of things how you can improve for the game. Hopefully that helps your GM as well. If you have any questions, you can email me. AskTheDM at evildm.com is my email address. The website is fixed for commenting. I know some people said, as well as the original person, that they couldn't comment on it. You should be able to comment now. It will put it in the queue for me to approve, so don't worry about that. I will approve them as I see them. That's just the way the spam filter works. I'm going to head out. Keep it original. Keep it old school. Good night. God bless. Don't forget, no drama, no clickbait, all game. Good night, everybody.